Hey everybody, Last Cap Badger. Um, someone asked me to do a part two on the VR chat stuff about bounty hunters. So yeah, we're going back to our boy Azil, and so we're gonna see what's up with this one. But before I jump in, 70% of y'all are still not subscribed, but you keep coming back to the channel. I don't know what else to tell you except like, share, comment, and subscribe. Then hit the real subscribe button, call the notification bell so you actually get videos when I post them up. And then comment down below or jump in the Discord. Okay, the Discord is linked in the description box down below for every single video. So there is that. And so, that being said, let's jump in. So yeah, Aziel or Azael, Azael, whatever. Azael, how this man trained to be a real bounty hunter? Okay, let's check it out.
I work for bail bonds companies. I am effectively a officer for hire, but I had to go to a school, basically a class, and it is, I swear to you this is real, it is called Bounty Hunter School. And he comes back downstairs, and I swear to you this is real, with an Amazon's Choice samurai sword.
So last time we talked, you told us a lot about like all of the crazy shit that's happened to you on the job, but you didn't really describe how you got the
Yep.
job. So what started everything? Start there.
So what started everything is back when I was in high school, I had a really close buddy of mine. For the sake of this story, we're gonna call him Eric. And Eric was on like the track team with me and a bunch of other sports. And when we graduated, I kind of lost touch with him for I think like 2 some odd years, and I went into security. And so I was mainly doing a few bouncer jobs. I did some security work at like a couple hotels, and then one day Eric reappeared in town, and when he showed up, I thought he had become a police officer, but he explained to me that he was a bail bondsman or a bounty hunter, and I was like, that's super cool. And he told me how it paid really well and how you get to do this and that and how you have a bit more freedoms than. And I was like, that sounds amazing. And I asked him how you become a bounty hunter, if there were like classes you have to take and stuff. And he joyfully went, well, in our state, you don't need a license. Even though, I didn't need a license, I still needed formal training. And as cool of a guy as Eric was, he was willing to train me. And so, he showed me how to properly use firearms, self-defense classes that he took me to. I did quite a few ride-alongs with him that were, fairly uneventful, just normal skips that weren't too crazy as the story I told you. Surprisingly enough, to be a bail bondsman, you have to be relatively in shape, or if you're lucky to be just built like a shit brick house. Yeah, you basically had to be relatively able to take punches or, take some damage. He introduced me to his personal bondsman that he got jobs from. And when you start off as a bail bondsman, you are going to do a few jobs for free because the bail bondsman wants to know if he can trust you. He wants to make
So far this sounds kind of like par for the course, really. It's just it has to do with being a bail bondsman or a bounty hunter. Because I mean, like, so for a lot of people, a lot of the work that they try to seek or get into is either they learn about it through word of mouth, or it's similar to something they've been looking at. That's for a good amount of people. And so, quite honestly, a lot of this isn't really surprising. It's really not. It's just that not a lot of people think about bounty hunters or bail bondsmen that much. They really don't. A vast majority of people don't like. They think that it's something either totally different, or they don't even think that, or they don't realize that these people actually exist. So it would make sense that a lot of people don't even know that actual bounty hunters and bail bondsmen are like a thing. So that would make a lot of sense.
To make sure you bring your skip back on time. He wants to make sure you can bring your skip back alive. He wants to make sure that you come back alive and that you're not going to lose him any money. Because ultimately, in the end, number 4 is the one he cares the most about. Is he going to get his money back? Because bail bondsmen are basically legalized loan sharks because they put money to get that person out of jail, so they want their money back and they want to make sure you can get it back. So after a few free jobs and like one slightly decent paid job, I was good to go. After that, I kind of partnered up briefly with Eric. We did some jobs together, but then, he ended up going and getting married and he wanted to go off and he moved to California with his, then fiance, and he did bounty hunting in California. And I stayed here because I don't feel like moving. I don't have that money. And so yeah, after that, pretty much it's pretty easy to get jobs because the bondsman at that point trusts you. And now that you're in good with him, a thing you can do is you can start to actually like as a business, you can kind of promote yourself. You can, in a sense, become a private detective also. People will hire bondsmen to look into certain things like, hey, I believe, for instance, my boyfriend is cheating on me. Can you tail him and I'll pay you money? Can you look into that for me and see if he's cheating? Or, hey, I'm concerned my kid's into X, Y, and Z, but I don't want to, be the one to go and bust him or something. Could you take care of that for me? And they'll pay you to do it. So you're not always just taking jobs from bail bondsmen. You're taking jobs from just normal people sometimes. But yeah, in the end, it's a lot of fun, if you're willing to go through the steps of becoming one. Because in my state of Montana, the appeal, since you don't need a license in this state, is extremely, the appeal of it's pretty big because you don't have to go to school. But just because, there's no license does not mean you can just rock up to a bondsman's office and say, hey, I want work. I want to be a bounty hunter. It's not going to work like that. You need to show up with the will, you need to show up with the drive, you need to show up with the proper gear because he doesn't give you anything. All he gives you is a name, a price, and the where, basically, the who, what, when, and where. And you have to supply everything else. So, yeah, cool.
This isn't too far removed, honestly, from some contracting stuff that I've seen. It's really not that much different, really. You're kind of more like a contract. You're more of like a contractor than an actual employee, it seems like. Because when you're a contractor, you're going to supply a lot of your own stuff. So if you're like a contractor that's like a truck driver, you have to have your own rig. You have to have your own you have to have your own trailer of some kind. And you have to have all your own equipment. Sounds like the same thing here. You're more of like a contractor than a direct and actual employee. But you know what? That would make sense. That would make sense. Because there's limited liability on you and more liability upon the bounty hunter or the bondsman. Because then they're more responsible because they're an individual entity that you're hiring out to. They're not directly employed by you, therefore subject to the same stuff you are. If that makes sense. Or at least I hope that makes sense. But if it doesn't, apologies. I'm still fighting OMICRON right now.
Cool, you don't need a license, but you need to prove to a bail bondsman, you are capable of doing the job. Because I've heard some real horror stories of 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds who thought they were Johnny Badass, Deadliest Dillinger Kapow. They went off and they, were given the job and they got stabbed. Or they got beaten with an inch of their life. Or God forbid they got killed, because they thought, oh, if, Patty Mayo can do it, I can do it. No, there's, you have to effectively earn it. There is you don't just get to do it. It's an investment, and it's a fun investment if you're willing to put the time in. But nevertheless, you are responsible for bringing a person in. It's not, some fun game of cops and rock. Basically, it's a real job that you have to take extremely seriously. But it's still a lot of fun, as you heard from that one story I told. But also realize it can also be really boring. Not every skip you go after is going to be some high octane, shootout or, fist fight. It's going to be either trying to hunt the person down, staking out the person's house, waiting, and then normally the person, respects the drip and just goes with you because they don't want, another federal charge of assaulting an officer of the court. They'll just go with you 99% of the time. They'll just go with you. But it's that 1% that basically tells you to go pound sand. Then here, in the words of Anakin, here's where the fun begins. You should also learn to say no. That's also very important, is learning to say no to certain jobs, because you have that power. A bondsman can call you up and say, hey, I've got a guy for X amount of money, but he also stabbed someone 35 times in the chest and shot someone and is 6'5" and is roided up. You normally say no to that and you let the police handle it because that guy sounds like a psychopath. But if you get a job and the guy's like, yeah, he's got, an assault charge. This isn't his first rodeo. This is like a second time offense. But other than that, this is the bounty on him. He's, X, Y, he's not as bad. You can go after that. That's a pretty straightforward one. But when you get the guy who's killed someone, you're like, I like my life. I'm going to pass on that.
Yeah.
Which for people who are not very accustomed to that type of people, that would make sense. That would make a lot of sense. Because if you don't have experience going up against people like that, you're in beyond your depth. Even if you're really very determined. Because once someone has killed someone else, okay, but they did it maliciously. They had the intent to do so they did it. Or that was what their wish, desire, and will was to kill someone. Once they have done that, that's already demonstrated they're willing to do it again. So, that being said, a regular person trying to go up against someone like that, they're going to be very hard pressed to come out on top. Just on average. Now, of course, is there going to be exceptions to every rule, like everybody wants to comment about, blah, blah, blah? Yes, but exceptions don't make the rule. Exceptions do not make a rule at all. So, yeah, when it comes to someone like that, you want a hardened professional. You want a veteran of some kind. You want someone who's gone through it and knows what they're dealing with and who they're dealing with and how to deal with them. And is willing to do what must be done. So if you're this guy that's the bounty hunter in the VR chat, and he's like, yeah, you definitely say no, what he means is that he will say, I say no to those jobs. Because I know that I would not try to handle those jobs. Now, me personally, if I were, let's say I decided to do work as like a bounty hunter or a bondsman. I'd take those jobs. I'd take pretty much all the jobs. The reason being is because I do have that experience. I do know how to handle that. And I do know how to engage individuals who want to kill me. So yeah, Personally, yes. For your average person that couldn't harm a fly, hell no. Hell no. You don't want people like that jumping in there. Alright? Or, even at the most pessimistic of my imaginings of anything, okay? Well, not really imagining, but, from my experience, I would have a better chance of dealing with someone like that than a lot of other people would. But then again, that comes back to what I said earlier. You want somebody with experience, someone who's been through it, who's been there, done that, and knows how to handle someone like that. Now, if it's not the police, then yeah. Then again, even when it comes to the police, because the police are not that well trained. They are not that well trained, unfortunately. So, yeah.
Do you ever have to do paperwork?
So sometimes yes, sometimes no. Not a whole lot of the time do you have to do paperwork. That's normally in the actual bondsman's ballpark. He's more in the realm of paperwork, money, and hiring.
Did you have any kind of like specific training you had to do though?
Yes, I did. So there was a gym, and it's kind of funny because it's like one of those obscure kind of gyms. It's like run. Like, did you ever see Rocky? Like the Rocky gym, like that super off to the side hood area gym. Well, that's the one my buddy Eric took me to. And the guy who worked there, he's like this Desert Storm veteran. He was a total badass. He did hand-to-hand, he did self-defense, he did the spectrum. Well, since I told him that I was going to be going into bounty hunting and that I really wanted to do that, he had a few other guys there. Two of them wanted to be cops. Two others wanted to be bounty hunters. One guy wanted to be a bouncer. And there was quite a few of us. Well, obviously, eventually, in a line of work like this, someone's going to pull a gun at some point. So he wanted us to kind of, because, that's the thing that always kind of kills me about gun owners, is they have this mentality of like, that's right, when the moment arises, I'll be ready. Well, it's quite to the contrary. I've only ever had to shoot once. And even then, it was the most surreal, just weird feeling you'll ever have, because it's go time, but you're at the same time questioning yourself of whether or not I can shoot someone. And so what he did to kind of phase us out of that feeling is he would line us all up, and he would walk up and down the line of us with a pistol that had blanks in it, and he would stand about maybe 10 some odd feet away from us, and he would say some horrifying thing and pull the trigger. And he would do this on repeat. And then he would show you how to disarm that person, how to distract that person, or how to effectively clap back, And eventually it just kind of, like in the military, eventually it just kind of desensitizes you to the point where, all right, this guy has, a gun. But I'm just visualizing, the instructor. I'm not seeing this, angry redneck that I'm trying to arrest. And so it's an easier thing if, you're trained to deal with a firearm getting pointed in your face.
All right, we're back. Let's keep going. But it makes sense. At the same time, there's multiple different ways to do this. Multiple different ways. For some people, it's a trial by fire. You get trained up in basic training. You go to your unit. You do force on force training during your sticks, not sticks lanes, but you do force on force, and then you do sticks lanes, And you just do all these things on repeat so that at some point, your training is literally second nature. Your response to everything becomes second nature. But then again, when it comes to actually being shot at, or getting shot, or being blown up or something like that, being punched, kicked, stabbed, if you ain't been through it before, there's a possibility you're going to go through it while you're in. Especially in a combat zone. Especially if you go outside the wire. If you're just sitting on the fob and that's all you're doing, more often than not, you're not going to see nothing. But yeah. And so, there's different ways to do training to really desensitize someone to what it is they might face. And how to respond to it accordingly. Which is why it's so ridiculous. People expect... The thing is that the only truly safe, closest way to being safe you can when you approach anybody is to assume they're armed and assume they're dangerous every single time. And treat them accordingly. But people have this foolish idea of like, oh, I'll just appear like I'm friendly and relaxed and calm and whatever. And it's like, well, no. Because then there's a chance that you're going to walk up to that door and then knock on that door. And as soon as you knock on it, someone opens the door and just shoots you. You're not prepared at all, are you? That's why I'm more of like the type to knock on the door and go around the corner with my weapon ready to be drawn. That's more of the type of person that I am. Then again, it comes from experience. It comes from experience, because almost every single door I've had to kick in, or blow down, or rip out, either way you want to do it, pretty much every time, there's been someone armed on the other side. And quite a few people armed on the other side. So, I don't know. To my mind, why take the chance? But then again, being in a military capacity, I guess is different from, security and such in a certain way. Like civilian security is different from military security. And when I'm talking about security, I'm talking about like security of person, or security for your squad, or your team, or your unit, or whatever. Personal security on top of that as well. Maybe, I don't know. Me, I'm totally down with police being militarized, being trained to the nth degree. I'm down with that. But then again, like, why take... I don't know, y'all. I don't know. Because I would treat everybody literally the same. Like, I would assume everybody's armed and dangerous. Every single time. Better to overestimate than underestimate. Always better to overestimate. Because you never know who you're going to be dealing with. I don't know. Y'all let me know what you think in the comments. Maybe I'm just rambling at this point. OMICRON. That's my excuse. OMICRON.
It's kind of like, brushing your teeth. After a while, you get it. And you're not as like, oh man, shaking, wondering if you can really do it. When it's go time, it's go time. So that's one of the methods of training that I got. The rest was, like I said, self-defense, takedowns, how to effectively throw a punch, how to get hit. When people who say they can fight, one of the things that they always feel is you need to learn how to fall down. That is key, because if someone punches you, you need to know how to catch yourself. You need to know how to actually fall down. You can't just go ragdoll like in Gmod. then you hurt yourself even more. You need to figure out how to fall down. That's a big part of learning how to defend yourself and how to fight. And I learned all this from this guy. And then for some reason, he always felt obligated to tell us weird war stories from when he was in Desert Storm. They were just like, he'd be in the middle of training and go off on a tangent every once in a while about, one time I remember we were like raiding this compound and this dude threw a grenade at me and I hit it with my gun like it was like the weirdest stuff, but loved the guy for it. But yeah, he got me the training and
Sound like someone you all know. Sounds like me, to be honest. It sounds a lot like me, to be honest. Because, yeah, I notice I do that myself, too. Like, a lot of people are like, you talk too much. Or, they're like, oh, you say too many things or whatever. And they're like, oh, you should be more like me. Well, here's the thing. You dummies. You people stupider than me who don't realize humans are different. I'm not like you. Because I'm not you. I'm a different human being. So yeah, that sounds like me though. I think it does. I'm pretty sure I go off on tangents all the time. Y'all probably know this.
that training has saved my ass on a few occasions. Not necessarily with a gun, but from getting punched in the face.
Okay, what's your favorite weapon to use?
If I had to choose, it'd be a pistol. It'd be just a sidearm. It's super easy to clean, super easy to take apart. I mean, super easy in the sense that depending on what type of gun, kind of company you go with, and what kind of rounds it shoots. But if I had to choose, I would take a sidearm any day, because one of the things you can do with it, if you run out and you get in a confrontation, you can just hit the son of a bitch with it. Yeah, you could do that with a rifle, sure, but there's more movement in it. I can just grab and boop, bop you with the handle. And then I guess if another self, I'd probably take a baton, because batons are good in the sense that it's not just good for hitting, but it's good for breaching, and it's good for blocking. So if I needed to breach a window, I needed to break a lock, I needed to break a car window or something, a baton is all that and more. And yeah, sure, yeah, you can whack a guy with it, but don't. It's not the best idea. Yeah, I guess like I said, you want to bring the guy back alive, not broken. Wondering what planet he's on. And then obviously pepper spray, a taser, handcuffs, and then the thing that I implore people who do want to start the profession, body cam. Will save your ass every time. I try to model a lot of the stuff I use off of what actual police officers use, because they got all the good gear and they must be doing something right. So the type of body cam I have is like a little black box, and it goes right on the middle of your chest. So it's right up here. You would think, what an odd place to put it, but surprisingly enough, you can get a lot of visual of, and you can also see the person's gun, and, you get a lot of footage with the one that goes on your chest. But yeah, so, equipment-wise, I try to use what police use. Granted, I don't use the same methods police use. For me, I do not like chokeholds. I do not like headlocks. And I definitely do not like using my knee to apply pressure on someone. But yeah, so there are certain moves that I refuse to use. I mean, unless the guy's going to try and stab me or something. I want to answer a few questions I saw in some of the comments on the two videos you dropped.
That would only make sense, though. Because most of everything that's used by law enforcement, more often than not, it's stuff that's become standard issue because it's tried and true kind of stuff. Like the body armor, the specialty tools, like breaching tools, or lock picking tools. It's they're quite similar to us in the military in the same way, because everything that's standard issue for the military is stuff, more often than not, that's tried and true. It's tried and true to work. It's tried and true to be reliable. It's tried and true to be something effective. And that's what standard issue is. Now, can you get better stuff? Yes. Do you necessarily want to? Well, you don't really need to, but if you want to, that's a totally different question. So yeah, this it makes a lot of sense. You wanna see what someone who's doing stuff that seems to go right and well, and copy what they do. So it only makes sense that if you're going to be working for the law in some capacity, you want to do what officers of the law also do. So yeah, makes sense.
For the one which had to do with when I worked for the food bank, and I got a call that a deer got fucking bodied by a snowplow. And the deer story, I noticed quite a few comments said, well, don't the police normally take care of stuff like that? Don't the police come out and shoot the deer? Why would the food bank do that? Well, they're right and they're also wrong. The police used to do the stuff where they come collect the deer, but they don't do it as much anymore because they've got more obviously pressing matters to attend to. Like if it's a deer and it got hit, it's not uncommon for the food bank to get called, because if the deer is still alive, the meat's still good, the food bank can come and harvest it, and we have proper paperwork. We have effectively the rights to do it. I don't know about the laws in other states and how it works. They may still just use police in other states, but I do know in my state the food bank is well within its rights to do stuff like that. The other is, I read a mean comment that said I sound 12. Forgive me for my voice. I happen to be 23 years old. Ouch. But yeah,
You really don't sound.
What's kind of funny is that, hilariously enough, I also made that comment. So in the part one of this video about this same kid, well, he's a kid to me, but he's actually an adult. He's an adult. But yeah, and this dude, he does sound very young to me. He does. Then again, that's from my personal experience. So if you don't like the fact that, someone sounds different to me than what they purport they are, then yeah, you can go eat it. Just saying. Just saying. Look, I'm open and honest on this channel. I'm not gonna pretend like, I'm not gonna pretend like, everything is always the same. And I'm not gonna pretend like I'm like everybody else. Okay? People are so stupid. They're stupider than me. And I'm pretty stupid. Anyway. But yeah, I already made that comment. I was like, Bub, he sounds really young. And then, someone brought it to my attention, actually he's like 23 or something. And I was like, boy, he sounds younger than that. But that's going off of my own experience. Or, as these triggered people say, my lived experience. So I'm going off of my lived experience that he sounds a lot younger. He sounds a lot younger than he is. According to my lived experience. So yeah. Take it or leave it. I don't force nobody to watch nothing, by the way.
Sound 12.
Yeah, you don't sound 12.
That said I sounded 12. How mean.
Okay, so that's the end. So that's the end of the video. Huh. Interesting. Very interesting. They say he's making a channel. It said Reich. Is starting a channel. Darn, too bad he didn't put it in the description box. So yeah, there we go, folks. Someone requested I do it, so I did it. There you go. The Bounty Hunter Part 2. What do y'all think? What do y'all think? Y'all let me know. I liked it. I liked it. I did. So yeah, what do y'all think? What do y'all think? Let me know. Let me know. It's pretty interesting. Montana sounds pretty wild and free from that statement. Although there are quite a few questionable things that happen in Montana. Or at least from what I hear there are. So, I don't know. We'll see. Anyway. Yeah. There we go. That's it. That's all. That's all, folks. Alright, I'm going to be doing a live stream probably tonight. Probably. I don't know for sure. I still feel like crud. So, yeah. OMICRON. Anywho. So, yeah. If you like hearing this dude's story, you like hearing my take on it, or if you don't like me and don't like him, doesn't really matter, then please like, share, comment, and subscribe. Then hit the real subscribe button, call the notification bell, so that you get videos when I post them up. Comment down below what you want to cover next. If you're a member or a first commenter, you get to request what's in the next series of uploads when it comes to these type of videos. And if you want to get in touch with me a lot faster, then get on the Discord. Get on the Discord. The link will be down below in the description box. And it's also in every live stream. So, yeah. Be good. Be safe. Make good life for yourselves. And to all the haters, go eat it. So, yeah. For everyone that's a decent human being,